I baked pies for 45 years to raise my son, and he brought his fiancée to take everything I had. In front of the town, they loaded my blankets into a truck, and she sneered, "These aren't your style, oldie." Hi, friends. I'm glad you're here with me today. Before we dive in, tell me, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, and now let's step right into the story. The U-Haul's engine growled as it idled in my driveway. Harmony Creek's main street was quiet, but I felt eyes on me, neighbors peeking through curtains, old customers pausing by the post office. My hands gripped the porch railing, knuckles white. Caleb didn't look at me. He hefted my stainless steel fridge, the one I'd saved for 3 years to buy, into the truck. Veronica, in her sleek black coat, pointed at my great-grandma's quilts, folded on the couch. "Those too," she said, her voice sharp like she was ordering coffee. "Those are family heirlooms," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Caleb froze, his hands on a quilt stitched with blue stars. "Mom, our new place needs character. You don't use them." I wanted to scream they were my history, my great-grandma's hands, my mom's stories. Instead, I said, "They're not just blankets." Veronica laughed, short and cold. "Hazel, they're dusty old rags. You're not doing anything with them." I stood there, rooted, as they carried out the quilts, my 85-inch TV, even the oak table my late husband John built. The town watched. Nobody said a word. Betsy, my best friend from the antique shop next door, stepped onto her porch, arms crossed. I saw the pity in her eyes. That hurt worse than the truck pulling away. 45 years I'd poured into Caleb. Widowed at 28, after John died in that tractor accident, I raised him alone. I baked pies from dawn to dusk at Hazel's Home Bakes, my little shop attached to our house. Every sticky bun, every peach cobbler was for him, for his school books, his sneakers, his college applications. I sold my mom's pearl necklace to cover his first year at Ohio State. He never knew. I never told him. Now, watching that truck disappear down Main Street, I felt empty. The house was silent. No hum from the fridge, no glow from the TV, just bare walls and the ghosts of those quilts. Caleb changed after he met Veronica. He was 35 when he brought her to Harmony Creek 2 years ago. I'd been so excited. My boy coming home with his future wife. I baked his favorite apple pie with extra cinnamon. But when they walked into the bakery, I knew something was off. Veronica stepped in, her heels clicking on my worn wood floor. She wore a cream cashmere suit that probably cost more than my monthly revenue. Her eyes scanned the shop, my chipped counter, the faded sign reading, "Hazel's Home Bakes," and her lip curled, just a little. "Mom, this is Veronica," Caleb said, his smile tight. I wiped flour off my hands and reached out. "Welcome, honey." She gave my hand a quick shake, then pulled out a tiny bottle of hand sanitizer. The squirt sounded louder than it should have. "Charming place," she said, but her tone said, "pathetic." "Want some pie?" I asked, pointing to the warm apple pie on the counter. She raised an eyebrow. "Do you have gluten-free muffins or almond milk for a latte?" I blinked. "No, just regular milk and pie." She smirked. "I'll pass." Caleb didn't eat either. He just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at the floor. Veronica walked around, inspecting my shop like it was a museum of things she'd never touch. "How quaint," she said. "Caleb, how did you survive growing up here?" He laughed, but it was hollow. It wasn't so bad. I felt my chest tighten. This was the boy who'd run through my kitchen, sneaking cookie dough, laughing under those quilts. Now he was embarrassed. Of me, of home. Over dinner that night, Veronica kept talking about Chicago, their loft, her job as a brand consultant, their vision board for the future. She didn't ask me a single question. Caleb barely spoke. When they left, I hugged him, but his arms were limp. "She's intense," I said to Betsy later as we sipped tea in her antique shop. "She's trouble," Betsy said, her voice low. "Watch out, Hazel." I didn't listen. I thought love would fix it. I thought Caleb would always be my boy. Last spring, Veronica came alone. No Caleb. She pulled up in a shiny black SUV, her heels clicking louder than ever. I was kneading dough, flour dusting my apron. She didn't sit, just stood there, arms crossed like she was delivering a verdict. "Hazel," she started, "we need to talk." I wiped my hands, my stomach nodding. "Is Caleb okay?" "He's fine. Busy. We just bought a condo in Chicago. $750,000. It's a big step." "That's wonderful," I said, forcing a smile. "He always dreamed big." Her eyes narrowed. "Yeah, but you're holding him back." I froze. "What?" "You're clingy. Calling every day. Expecting him to visit. Sending him on guilt trips with your stories about the old days." She air quoted that like my life was a joke. "Caleb needs to focus on us, on our future." My hands shook, so I hid them behind my apron. "I just want him happy." "Then let him go," she said, her voice like ice. "Stop being a burden, financially, emotionally." I wanted to argue, to tell her I'd given everything for him, but her words hit hard. Was I a burden? Had I been too much? "Caleb agrees," she added, checking her phone. "He just doesn't want to hurt you." I nodded, my throat tight. "I'll give him space." "Good," she said, "and no more asking him for money to fix this place. It's a money pit." She left without a goodbye. I stood there, dough forgotten, my hands still trembling. That night, I didn't call Caleb, or the next. When he called me, I kept it short. "I'm fine, honey," I lied. "Just busy." I thought I was doing the right thing, letting him live his life. But it wasn't enough. A few months later, they invited me to their wedding, a fancy Chicago restaurant, all glass and chandeliers. I wore my best dress, but I felt like a stranger. Caleb's new friends talked about stocks and startups. Veronica's family looked through me. At the reception, I overheard her mom say, "Caleb's mom is sweet, but so small town." I smiled through it, but my heart ached. When Caleb called a week later, his voice was strange, hesitant. "Mom, we're redecorating the condo," he said. "Could we borrow your fridge? And maybe those quilts? They'd look perfect in our place." I should have said no, but I didn't. I thought it'd keep us close. So I said yes. That's when they showed up with the U-Haul. I stopped baking that week. My fridge was gone, so my ingredients spoiled. Customers noticed the pies weren't the same. "You okay, Hazel?" they'd ask. I'd nod, smile, lie. But my hands shook too much to roll dough properly. I burned 2 batches of cookies in one day. Betsy started bringing me casseroles. "You're too thin," she said, setting a dish of cheesy potatoes on my counter. I tried to eat, but it tasted like ash. I was skipping meals to save money. My savings were down to $2,000. The bakery was dying. One night, I called Caleb. I just needed to hear his voice. Veronica answered. "He's in a meeting, Hazel," she said, her voice like a slammed door. "I just wanted—" "We thought you understood," she cut in. "He needs space." I heard her mutter to someone, "She's so needy." Then the line went dead. I sat in my empty living room staring at the bare walls. The rectangles where my quilts used to hang glowed in the moonlight. Ever felt invisible in your own home? That's how it started for me. My house felt like a tomb. No hum from the fridge, no laughter from the TV, just silence, broken by the drip of a leaky faucet in the kitchen. I stood in my living room, staring at the bare walls. The faded rectangles where my great-grandma's quilts once hung stared back. I was 75, and everything I'd built was gone, stolen by my own son. I tried to keep Hazel's home bakes going, but without a fridge, it was impossible. Milk soured, butter melted. My pies, once the pride of Harmony Creek, turned dry and tasteless. Regulars stopped coming. Mrs. Larson, who'd bought my pecan rolls every Sunday for 20 years, switched to the chain bakery in the next town. "It's not the same, Hazel," she said, her eyes soft with pity. I nodded, my throat too tight to answer. My savings dwindled to $800. I started skipping dinners, telling myself I wasn't hungry. My jeans hung loose. My hands shook when I tried to knead dough. One morning, I burned a whole tray of biscuits. The smoke alarm screamed, and I just stood there, watching the blackened lumps. Betsy noticed first. She showed up with a chicken casserole, her face creased with worry. "Hazel, you're wasting away," she said, setting the dish on my counter. "I'm fine," I lied, my voice thin. "You're not." She grabbed my wrist, gentle but firm. "Look at you. When did you last eat?" I pulled away, ashamed. "I'm managing." She didn't push, but she kept bringing food. Casseroles, soups, even a slice of her famous cornbread. I ate to make her happy, but every bite felt like a chore. My heart was too heavy to care. One night, desperate, I called Caleb. My fingers trembled as I dialed. Veronica answered. "Hazel, he's in a meeting," she said, her voice sharp as a blade. "I just need to talk to him," I said. She sighed. "We thought you understood. He needs space." I heard her whisper to someone, "She's so pathetic." The line clicked dead. I sank to the floor, the phone still in my hand. Pathetic. That's what I was to them, a burden, a nobody. My son, the boy I'd raised alone, had let her erase me. The mailbox creaked when I opened it, rusted from years of rain. Inside was a thick envelope stamped from a law firm in Columbus. My heart skipped. Bills, maybe, or worse, some legal trouble. I tore it open with shaky fingers. It wasn't a bill. It was a letter, handwritten, from Arthur. My Arthur. The boy I'd loved at 17 before I met John. His words were simple, steady, like him. "Dear Hazel, I never stopped thinking about you. My wife passed 3 years ago. Cancer. I built a life, a big one, in agriculture. But it's empty without you. I hired a detective to find you. I hope that's okay. If you're free, if you're willing, I'd love to see you again. Yours, Arthur." Tucked inside was a photo. Arthur, 77 now, stood in front of golden wheat fields, his smile warm, his eyes kind. He looked like the boy I'd known, just older, with lines etched deep from a life well lived. My hands shook harder now, but not from hunger, from hope, a tiny spark of it flickering in the dark. There was a number. I dialed it, my voice cracking when a woman answered. "Law offices of Bennett and Sons. I'm Hazel Thompson. I got a letter from Arthur." The woman's tone softened. "Oh, Miss Thompson, he'll be thrilled. He'd like to invite you to dinner at the Drake Hotel in Chicago, this Friday if you're able." I swallowed. I don't have anything to wear." "Don't worry," she said. "He's sending a car and a gift." The next day, a courier arrived with an envelope. Inside was a crisp $1,000 in cash and a note. "Buy something beautiful, Hazel. You deserve it." I stared at the money. It was more than I'd seen in months. Betsy dragged me to a boutique in the next town. I picked a navy dress, simple but elegant, with a soft shawl to match. She made me get my hair done, too. "You're glowing," she said, squeezing my hand. I didn't believe her, but I wanted to. The car Arthur sent was a sleek black sedan, the kind you see in movies. The driver, a quiet man named Tom, held the door for me. I felt like a fraud in my new dress, my hands twisting in my lap as we drove to Chicago. The city loomed ahead, all glass and steel, so different from Harmony Creek's sleepy streets. The Drake Hotel was grand, marble floors, chandeliers, waiters in crisp white shirts. I stepped inside, clutching my purse. Arthur was waiting by the hostess stand. He looked just like his photo, but better. His gray hair was neat, his suit tailored but not flashy. His eyes lit up when he saw me. "Hazel," he said, his voice warm. "You're as beautiful as I remember." I laughed, nervous. "You're a liar, Arthur." "Never," he said, taking my hand. We sat by a window, the city sparkling outside. The menu had no prices, which made my stomach twist. But Arthur ordered for us steak, roasted vegetables, a glass of red wine. We talked, and it was easy, like slipping into an old song. He told me about his life, his agribusiness, his kids, his wife's illness. I told him about John's accident, Caleb, the bakery. I left out the U-Haul, the quilts, the emptiness. "You always had a spark," he said, leaning forward. "Even at 17, you still do." My cheeks warmed. "I'm just an old baker now." "No," he said, his voice firm. "You're Hazel, the strongest woman I ever met." We laughed about high school, about the time we snuck into the county fair after hours. For 3 hours, I forgot the pain. I forgot Caleb. I forgot the bare walls. At the end of the night, he walked me to the car. His hand brushed mine, and I didn't pull away. "Hazel," he said, his voice low. "I've got a big house on my farm. Too big for just me. Come live with me. Let me take care of you." I stared at him, my heart pounding. "Arthur, I'm nobody now. I've got nothing." "You've got everything," he said. "You've got you." I didn't answer right away. I needed time. But when I got home, I called him. "Yes," I said, "I'll come." 2 weeks later, I packed a single suitcase. Betsy cried when I hugged her goodbye. "You deserve this, Hazel," she whispered. Arthur's farm was like a painting, rolling fields, a white house with a wraparound porch. He greeted me with a bouquet of wildflowers. "Welcome home," he said. For the first time in years, I slept through the night. No leaky faucet, no bare walls, just peace. Then one morning, my phone rang. It was Caleb. His voice was ragged, panicked. "Mom, I need you." I froze, the phone heavy in my hand. "What happened?" "Veronica, she's gone, took everything, all our money. I got laid off, Mom. I've got nothing left." He was crying. My boy, crying. "Please, Mom, can I stay with you, just for a while?" I closed my eyes. The hurt rushed back. The U-Haul, the quilts, Veronica's voice calling me pathetic. But he was my son, my only son. Caleb's voice cracked through the phone, raw and desperate. "Mom, please, I've got nowhere else to go." I stood in Arthur's kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, warming the hardwood floor. His house smelled of fresh coffee and lavender from the garden. My new life, my second chance. But Caleb's sobs pulled me back to Harmony Creek, to the empty house, to the U-Haul hauling away my life. "I'm sorry, Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "I messed up. Veronica, she cleaned out our account. $50,000 gone. She ran off with some guy from the agency. I got laid off last week. I'm broke." My chest tightened. I wanted to reach through the phone, hold him like I did when he was 5, crying over a scraped knee. But I saw Veronica's smirk, heard her call me pathetic, saw Caleb load my quilts into that truck. "Caleb," I said, my voice steady but cold, "you hurt me. You took everything." He went quiet, then a whisper. "I know. I'm so sorry." I closed my eyes. "I love you. Always will. But I'm done being your doormat." He sobbed harder. "Mom, don't say that. I need you." I gripped the counter, my knuckles white. "I needed you too. You chose her." Arthur walked in, his boots soft on the floor. He didn't say a word, just rested a hand on my shoulder. It gave me strength. "Caleb," I said, "I've got a new life now. I'm putting me first." He begged, pleaded. I hung up. The silence was heavy, but it felt right. Later, Arthur sat me down with a cup of tea. "You did good, Hazel," he said, "but he's still your boy." "I know," I said, my voice small, "but I can't let him break me again." Arthur nodded. "Let me talk to him." Arthur called Caleb the next day. I didn't listen, but I heard Arthur's steady voice through the wall, calm but firm. When he came back, he looked at me with those kind eyes. "He's in a bad spot," he said, "but he's not a bad kid, just lost." "What did you tell him?" I asked, stirring my tea, the spoon clinking too loud. "Offered him a job," Arthur said. "Logistics at my company, entry level. Pays $25 an hour, enough to start over. I also found him a studio apartment in town, $700 a month. I'll cover the first 3 months." I stared at him. Why, after what he did? Arthur leaned back, his hands folded. Because you love him, and because I believe in second chances. I didn't know what to say. My heart was torn, grateful, angry, hopeful, all at once. Arthur didn't push. He just squeezed my hand and went to check on his fields. Caleb took the job. He moved to a small town 20 miles from Arthur's farm. I didn't see him, but Arthur said he was working hard, keeping his head down. I wanted to believe it, but I wasn't ready to let him back in. Not yet. Meanwhile, my life with Arthur bloomed. His house wasn't just a house. It was a home. We cooked dinners together, simple things like roast chicken and mashed potatoes. We walked his fields at sunset, the wheat swaying like a golden sea. He taught me to drive his old pickup truck, laughing when I stalled it in the driveway. One night, he took me to his barn, where he kept a small workshop. "Close your eyes," he said. I did. He guided me inside, his hand warm on mine. "Open them." There, on a table, was a new sewing machine, top of the line, worth at least $2,000. "For your quilts," he said. "Start new ones, make your own history." Tears stung my eyes. "Arthur, I can't." "You can," he said, "and you will." I started sewing again, not for anyone else, for me. Each stitch felt like mending my heart. 6 months later, Arthur proposed, not with a ring, but with a question, over breakfast in his kitchen. "Hazel," he said, setting down his coffee, "will you marry me?" I laughed, then cried, then said yes. He slid a simple gold band onto my finger, worth maybe $500, but to me it was priceless. We planned a small wedding in Arthur's garden. White chairs, wildflowers, a string quartet playing soft music. Betsy came, her eyes shining as she hugged me. "You're a queen, Hazel," she whispered. Caleb came too. I hadn't seen him since he took the job. He looked different, thinner, humbler, his suit a little worn at the cuffs. He approached me before the ceremony, his hands stuffed in his pockets. "Mom," he said, his voice low, "you look beautiful." I nodded, my throat tight. "Thank you, Caleb." "I'm sorry," he said, his eyes on the ground. "For everything. I was stupid. I let her control me." I wanted to hug him, to tell him it was okay, but it wasn't. Not yet. "I know you're trying," I said. "Keep going." He nodded, tears in his eyes, and stepped back. The wedding was perfect. Arthur and I danced under the stars, his arms steady around me. For the first time in years, I felt whole. A month later, Betsy called with news. She'd heard from a friend in Chicago. Veronica's new life had crumbled. Her lover, the senior partner, dumped her when her money ran out. She was working as a receptionist now, scraping by in a tiny apartment. I didn't smile. I didn't cry. I just felt nothing. She was gone from my life. That was enough. Caleb kept working for Arthur. He started dating a girl named Sarah, a veterinarian from his new town. She was kind, Arthur said, with a laugh like a summer breeze. I hadn't met her yet, but I hoped he'd found someone who'd help him be better. One evening, Arthur and I sat on the porch, watching the sunset. "You ever think about starting something new?" he asked. "Like what?" I said, sipping my tea. "A fund for women like you, small-town entrepreneurs, fighting to keep going." I turned to him, my heart swelling. "You mean it?" "I do," he said. "I've got the money. You've got the heart." We started the Hazel Fund, a grant for women running businesses in small Midwestern towns. The first round gave out 10 grants, $5,000 each. I read every application, stories of women like me, bakers, seamstresses, florists, pouring their souls into their work. It felt like giving back a piece of myself. Caleb came to the first grant ceremony. He didn't say much, just watched as I handed out checks. Afterward, he pulled me aside. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said. I looked at him. Really looked. He wasn't the boy who'd taken my quilts. He was trying to be a man. "I'm proud of you too," I said. And I meant it. The Hazel Fund grew faster than I expected. By spring, we'd given out 20 grants, each $5,000, to women across Ohio and Indiana. I read their letters at Arthur's kitchen table, stories of single moms opening diners, widows starting flower shops. Each one felt like a stitch in a new quilt, binding me to something bigger. Arthur handled the money, but I picked the recipients. "You've got a knack for this," he said one evening, watching me sort applications. "It's not a knack," I said, my pen scratching notes. "It's knowing what it's like to fight for something." He smiled, that warm, steady smile. "That's why it's called the Hazel Fund." Caleb started visiting more. Not often, but enough. He'd drive over in his beat-up sedan, the one he bought for $3,000 after selling his fancy Chicago car. He'd sit on the porch with me, sipping lemonade, talking about his job. He liked logistics, he said. It was steady. Real. One day, he brought Sarah, the veterinarian. She was small, with freckles and a laugh that filled the room. She hugged me when we met, no hesitation. "Caleb talks about you all the time," she said, her eyes bright. "Your pies sound legendary." I laughed, surprised. "I haven't baked in a while." "You should," she said. "I'd buy every one." Caleb watched us, quiet, a small smile on his face. I saw the boy I raised in that smile, the one who'd sneak cookie dough from my mixing bowl. But I also saw the man he was becoming. Not perfect, but trying. Later, as they left, he hugged me. "Thanks, Mom," he whispered. "For what?" I asked. "For not giving up on me." I didn't answer, just squeezed him back. I started sewing again, thanks to Arthur's gift. The new machine hummed under my fingers, smoother than anything I'd ever used. My first quilt was simple, blue and white like the sky over Arthur's fields. I worked on it at night after dinner while he read in his armchair. One evening, he looked up from his book. "Who's that one for?" I smoothed the fabric, my hands steady now. "Me," I said. "Just me." He nodded, like he understood. "It's beautiful, Hazel." It was. Not because it was perfect, my stitches weren't as tight as they used to be, but because it was mine. Every square held a piece of my story. The bakery, John's accident, Caleb's betrayal, Arthur's love. I didn't need my great-grandma's quilts anymore. I was making my own legacy. Caleb came by one Sunday, alone. He saw the quilt, half-finished, on my table. "You're sewing again," he said, his voice soft. "Yeah," I said, "feels good." He touched the fabric, hesitant. "I miss those old quilts, the ones I took." I looked at him, my heart heavy but calm. "They're gone, Caleb, but I'm still here." He nodded, his eyes wet. "I sold them to a dealer in Chicago, got $2,000. Thought it'd make Veronica happy." I swallowed the hurt. "Did it?" "No," he said, his voice breaking. "Nothing did." I didn't comfort him. Didn't tell him it was okay. Instead, I said, "Make it right. Not for me. For you." He looked at me, surprised, then nodded. "I'm trying, Mom." I believed him. On my 80th birthday, Arthur threw a party. Not at the Drake, but in our garden, under a big white tent. The air smelled of lilacs and grilled corn. Neighbors from Harmony Creek drove up, including Betsy, who brought a peach cobbler. "Your recipe," she said, winking. Caleb was there with Sarah. They were engaged now, planning a small wedding in their town. Sarah wore a simple ring worth maybe $500, but she glowed like it was a diamond crown. "We're happy," she told me, squeezing my hand. "He's happy." I looked at Caleb, laughing with Arthur by the grill. He was different now, steadier. He'd been promoted at Arthur's company, making $30 an hour. He'd saved enough to buy a used truck, worth $4,000. Small steps, but his own. The Hazel Fund had grown too. We'd given out 50 grants now, totaling $250,000. Women sent me thank you notes, pictures of their shops, their kids. One sent a quilt she'd made, inspired by mine. I hung it in our living room next to my new blue and white one. Arthur raised a glass as the sun set. "To Hazel," he said, his voice carrying over the crowd, "the strongest woman I know and the love of my life." Everyone cheered. I blushed, but I felt it. Strength, love, peace. Later, Caleb pulled me aside. He handed me a small box. Inside was a silver locket worth maybe $100. It held a photo of us taken when he was 10, both of us grinning in my bakery. "I found it in a box," he said, "from before everything." I traced the locket, my throat tight. "Thank you, Caleb." "I'm sorry, Mom," he said again. "I'll keep making it right." I hugged him, long and hard. "You already are." That night, Arthur and I sat on the porch. The party. Long over. The stars were bright, the air cool. He took my hand, his fingers warm against mine. "Happy birthday, Hazel," he said. I leaned against him, my head on his shoulder. "I didn't think I'd get here," I said. "Not at 75, not after everything." "But you did," he said, "and you're just getting started." I smiled, my heart full. I thought of Harmony Creek, the empty house, the U-Haul. I thought of Veronica, alone now, her glamour faded. I thought of Caleb, rebuilding his life, and me, here, with Arthur, my quilts, my purpose. My real life started at 75. At 80, it was only getting better. Word spread about the Hazel Fund. Local papers wrote about it. A reporter from Columbus came to interview me. "How'd you do it?" she asked. "After losing so much?" I thought about it, my hands folded in my lap. "I didn't lose everything," I said. "I had me, and that was enough." She wrote that down, her pen moving fast. The article ran the next week with a picture of me and Arthur in front of our house. Caleb framed it, hung it in his apartment. I kept sewing. My second quilt was for Sarah, a wedding gift, green and gold like the fields in summer. She cried when I gave it to her. "It's perfect," she said. Caleb and Sarah married in a small church with 50 guests. I baked their cake, lemon with buttercream frosting. My hands didn't shake. The bakery was gone, but the baker was still here. Arthur and I traveled sometimes, visiting grant recipients. We met a woman in Indiana who'd opened a coffee shop with her $5,000 grant. She named a latte after me, Hazel's Hazelnut. I laughed when I saw it on the menu. Caleb visited often. He never asked for money, never took a thing. Instead, he brought things. Groceries, a new scarf, a book about quilting. Small gestures, but they meant the world. On quiet nights, I'd sit with Arthur watching the fire in our living room. My quilts hung on the walls, each one a story. Not of loss, but of survival, of love, of starting over. I was 80, and I was home,